This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here we have something that is a lot like the Microsoft Surface Pro 3, but it's not. Obviously, a big HP logo here. This is the HP Envy X2. Yet again, that they should use a different model number maybe for these things. Anyway, 2014 edition. This is the 13.3-inch model. It's also available as a 15.6-inch model. As you can see, you got a kickstand right here. You have the same kind of surfacey, type cover thing going on here. It's sort of fabricy on the outside. It's thin, it's more rigid than the Surface. 13.3-inch stereo speakers, full HD display, Broadwell inside, Intel 5th generation CPU. We're going to look at it now. So this is the latest iteration of the HP Envy X2. Boy, it's a changing animal. It goes from a kind of small little compact guide to something that's, well, pretty sizable. 13.3 inches here, so that's mainstream Ultrabook size and pretty manageable for a lot of people. And I know you're going to look at this and you're going to say, wow, they sure copied the Microsoft Surface Pro. I think Microsoft loves that because the whole point of them making that was so that they could inspire laptop and tablet makers to do something a little bit better, a little bit more interesting. And if more folks make that design now that it's pretty popular, to Microsoft, that's great. Anyway, the one drawback of Surface Pro for some people, the first two were 10.6 inches and the new one's 12.2. 12.2 is getting there, but for a lot of folks, 13.3 is the smallest that they want to go. So reason number one why HP went ahead and made this model right here. Also, HP has a way of doing things that are kind of like, it feels like almost a home appliance kind of experience. You can imagine this guy in the kitchen, and I'll show you a couple of positions where that makes sense. But first off, front-facing stereo speakers, the usual HP Beats audio inside, so a little bit more multimedia, kind of fun home content consumption sort of thing, watching videos, watching cooking videos, because check out the kickstand. It's got an integrated kickstand, not unlike Surface, and it goes into a variety of positions all the way. So say you want to have it just like Surface can do, like that. So you can just imagine this thing set up in the kitchen, right, or the living room, and the family just walks up to browse, look up something, watch a cooking video, like I said, watch a movie. And you can do real computing work on it too, because this is full Windows 8.1 64-bit. So it's kind of cool, right? It's like your more home, mainstream-friendly version of a Surface Pro product, and that's what it is. Price starts at $799. For that, you're not going to get the wildest, greatest specs. It's not too bad. 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD, and this has Intel Broadwell M 5th generation CPUs inside. But just like the Lenovo Yoga 3 Pro that we looked at, it's the equivalent of the Y series CPU, a little bit less powerful than the U series used in Ultrabooks. So just like Yoga again, Yoga 3 Pro, we have the Core M-5Y70 CPU. Base clock speed is 1.1 gigahertz, turbo boost up to 2.6 gigahertz. You can also get this with the 5Y10, a little bit slower for a bit less money, and that's what the entry-level model has. This one here, they sell this one at Best Buy, for example, and it costs $1,099. So that's $100 more than the entry-level Surface Pro 3, but this one has the full HD touchscreen, pen also, we'll get into that. But you get 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD, which is something that you're looking at $1299 for the Surface Pro 3. Surface Pro 3 is faster though. So there's a difference. So again, more for casual home consumers. You're just doing your web, you're doing your email, you're doing some occasional video editing, photo editing, all that stuff is fine. And in the box, here's the other thing, you get the keyboard cover. Again, a lot like the Surface Pro 3, but it's more rigid, a bit thicker, and it's got a kind of faux leather surface right here, finished leather that is. Pretty nice, and on the back side it's suede-y. Now it's available in a couple of different colors, it's your choice right there, and you can see we have the pen holder, pen not included once again. I'm going to remind you of that inbox, $60 extra for that pen, and we'll talk about it. And again, like Surface Pro 3, we have the magnetic connector over here with the plastic. This is not a robust magnet like Surface Pro 3 where you could really pick it up by the keyboard. It wouldn't come undocked. You just pick up the Envy itself and this keyboard will fall off, so not super rigid. But the interesting thing about this is it is Bluetooth, despite the physical connection here with the little pins, so you can actually separate this from the HP if you want to, and you can say, well, I want to have that on the coffee table and I want this keyboard in my lap. Yes, you can do that and it works. Hit the Windows key, there it is. It's having its effect. Now with Surface Pro 3, there's an accessory that will Bluetooth eyes your type cover, but out of the box, it doesn't do that. It's also a backlit keyboard too, so not many detachables have backlit keyboards. Surface Pro 3's keyboard obviously does have that, and this one has it, but most of the others won't. So that's kind of a nice touch too. In terms of typing experience, it's actually pretty good. Now, you're not going to get a lot of key travel on something like this because it is wildly skinny. That's the idea, to make the whole package as thin and light as possible. That said, our friend the Envy right here is no lightweight. This is a 2.8 pound tablet. That's just the tablet section. Together they weigh 4 pounds. So, Surface Pro 3 obviously there for you people who need maximum portability, and a variety of other detachables that are on the market too, but none of them are going to be as light as that. But grabs on there pretty nicely, doesn't it? So we have this little flappy section right here, and it's got pretty strong magnets around the edge to hold it on. And oddly enough, it can still, you know, squiggle around sometimes. You kind of have to make sure you put it in the right place. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but it's easy enough to accidentally put it a little too low. So anyway, you get, these magnets are really strong here. Once you get it all on there, it's pretty well on there in terms of, if you put this in the bag, this is just not going to come off. Boy, it does not want to come off. I'm grabbing it and all that sort of thing. So to carry it around, 2.8 pounds by itself, 4 pounds together, it is more like carrying an Ultrabook around. One nice thing about the big design is it gets you more ports. Right here, well, that's the charging port. And it comes with the usual compact Ultrabook small style charger, USB 3.0 port, combo headphone jack, our little blinking sleep light right there. Volume controls, because, well, it's a tablet first and foremost. You might not have the keyboard attached. And on this side right here, full-size HDMI port, another USB port, and also you get your micro SD card slot there. So in terms of Windows tablets, that's a lot of ports for something that is a pure tablet design there. So that's kind of nice. And it gives HP an excuse for making something that is bigger and it is heavier. The back is good old-fashioned aluminum alloy right here. Sturdy, doesn't budge, doesn't, you know, any of those things. Seems fairly scratch resistant. We have not tried dragging along on the street or anything nasty like that. It is a review unit, but seems very well made, as it should, for something, well, that runs somewhere between $800 and $1,100. By the way, ours here has 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD. You can go up to a 512 gig SSD, but 8 gigs of RAM is the max you can figure. This looks pretty well sealed. If we open up our flap here, you can see there's Phillips head screws, but there's none around the edges, and I've been a little shy of trying to yank this guy apart. It doesn't give me the feeling that it's meant to be disassembled and opened up. Maybe one of you will be more brave one of these days and do that to it. This has a whole lot of damping on it. It's pretty stiff, so it's nice. It doesn't slip. It's sturdy enough that you can actually rest your hand on the display when you have it in that kind of splatted out mode, like so. And how splatty can you go? You can go as low as that. So that's a pretty good angle. And I don't think most people are going to need something lower than that, short of actually just resting it, well, you know, on the table like that, which you can do, and it doesn't rock despite the slight curve to the back. So let's talk pen. Optional pen, $60. Don't get too scared. This is a Synaptics technology pen. Those of you who watch our Dell Venue 8 Pro and Dell Venue 11 Pro know Synaptics was, well, possessed by the devil at first. When it came out, it just did all sorts of weird things. It's improved with Dell, and it's certainly better here. It's not up to the quality of N-Trig or Wacom. For those of you who are digital artists or who are long experienced with note-taking and are kind of picky about the level of responsiveness you get from your pen, still not as good a solution for our optional $60 pen. Notice it's flat on one side. There's actually magnet built in on this, so you can put it right there. You know, it's not the world's sturdiest connection. You can knock it off just like that. Oopsie. It helps to not lose it. And just like the Surface Pro 3, like I said, you got this little hole right here. You can slide your pen in. Got a button on the side right there. It takes one quadruple A battery. That's A, one size smaller than triple A. And N-Trig pens use that, so do Synaptics pens. So as a pointing device, it gets the job done. Where it's more useful is in some place like, well, the desktop here, because things are still fairly small. Full HD 1080p 1920 by 1080 display, IPS, lovely screen right there. By the way, 330 nits of brightness. And we have 125% zooming, which is just fine for seeing your icons, but it can be like a little hard to tap on things. So say we wanted to tap over there, you know. You can do that just fine with using the pen. It works for that sort of thing. I don't think you're going to be wanting to use it for the on-screen keyboard. That's a big enough target, and you have a dedicated keyboard. However, you could do that. But for things like the close box, which can be really annoyingly small, it took several tries there. See, sometimes it's just a little bit quirky, quacky, weird. I don't know. It's not Intrig, it's not Wacom. It's better than nothing still, I suppose. It's got palm rejection, so you can rest your hand on the screen while you're writing, and I'll show you that. That's nice. It has 255 levels of pressure sensitivity. So anyway, it works handy for copying files. Say I want to drag something out to the desktop from here. That works a lot easier than using my finger, doing something like that. So that's what it's capable of. Now let's take a look at something like Windows Journal that supports note-taking to see how it works there. So here we are at Windows Journal, and I'm resting my hand on the glass. And if you pick the pen up, if you start printing, it starts missing part of the strokes. So if you're a constant cursive or script writer like that, it's going to be fine. But if I try to write it like, sometimes it gets everything, sometimes it doesn't. So there it is. You make the decision as to whether that works for you or not. It's okay. It's all right. Now let's look at art applications next. We'll look at Fresh Paint. And there it actually works a little bit better. And there is pressure sensitivity here. Let's make a little stroke here, a light touch, heavier touch, light touch, heavier touch. So for drawing it can be better, but see if I go fast like this, it's totally not really keeping up, and I'm just getting blotches and scratches and that sort of thing. So not for digital artists, really for note takers who are not super duper picky or who write in cursive a whole lot of the time. Lastly, we're going to take a look at Art Rage right here, and the latest version, 64-bit. And again, you can see this is really the best that I've seen so far. Now, if you go fast, see the lag, how far away the lines are actually? It starts to lose it a little bit. So you have to be at one of those slow, methodical drawers, and once in a while it's going to pick up or miss a stroke on you. But it does the best in Art Rage of anything so far, but there's still some lag and latency. It's not Intrig like that used in Surface Pro 3 and the old Sony Vaio Flip series. It's not Wacom that's used in quite a few Windows tablets, but again, really for note takers more than anything else. So that's the optional pen feature. Now this always supports the pen. They just don't sell it in the box. You don't have to worry about buying the right version. This is if you want to use the pen. All you do is buy this and then you buy the pen, which is $60. So how about performance numbers? This is where it gets a little difficult. First off, Crystal Dismart. This is the SSD speed. This is very straightforward, and that's perfectly fine there. And we have the 256 gig SSD model. Those are good speeds according to Crystal Dismart tests. Now, if we get into something like PCMark, now I would say that Intel spent a lot of time optimizing their Broadwell M CPU for benchmarks, because the numbers really are often better in your standard Windows benchmark applications than they are in real life actual use, or something like Cinebench, where the numbers are not as impressive as with the Haswell U series. Now again, this is really equivalent to the Y series. So in real world use, this is like one of your better Core i3 Haswell U series CPUs. But anyway, the benchmark numbers, PCMark 7, 4508. We usually see anywhere from 46 to 5,000 for a Core i5 Haswell U series Ultrabook CPU, and a bit lower actually for the last generation Haswell Y series, so there's a step up there. Now the interesting thing here is that this CPU has a real high turbo boost, but the nominal running rate is low, but it's only a 4.5 watt CPU versus 15 watts, so it's using a lot less power. Does not get terribly hot, and this is a fanless design, unlike the Yoga 3 Pro, which actually had a fan, and we're not even sure why it had the fan, but, well, it does. Anyway, in 3D Mark 11, it scored on the performance 1366 by 768 test, P780. Usually we see closer to the 900 than something like Surface Pro 3, so there's no gains, even though this has Intel HD 5300 graphics. That 5300 just indicates that we have a generational jump. It doesn't mean it's faster or better than 4400. It's just a newer generation. It's actually about 10% slower on average than the HD 4400 graphics used in the 4th generation Intel U series Ultrabook models. W prime, it computed pi in 25 seconds, which is actually pretty good. And on Geekbench 3, it scored 2560 for the single core and multi-core 4367, which is a little bit lower than we would see on U series. So the benchmarks don't sound that bad, except for, like I said, if you're doing Cinebench, if you're doing real-world encoding a video, something like that on this, then it's going to seem a bit slower. And I'll show you Civ 5 running on this. Civ 5 is a game that's not that graphically demanding, so it's a good test for integrated graphics machines because it doesn't need much there. But you'll see that the turns, even at the beginning of a game, are kind of slow compared to what they would be on a Intel U-Series Ultrabook for the Haswell generation. Now next year we will see U-Series machines on the 5th generation Broadwell. However, for designs like this that are relatively slim and have no fan inside, that's exactly what this Y is designed for. That's in here. So there's a reason why it's in here. Now the display, it's a nice display. It does quite well here in color gamut tests with our spider colorimeter. And you can see you got 99% of sRGB and 78% of Adobe RGB. So it's right up there with the best displays. Contrast measured in at 750:1, which is also quite good. And brightness at 330 nits is also very good. So it's a premium display that you've got on here. No complaints when it comes to that. Viewing angles also very good because, well, it's IPS. So you can start turning it this way and see it still stays very viewable. You get some glossy glare display going on, but it's quite good. And it's big enough you might want to share with a family member when you're watching a movie or something like that. So you can do that. By the way, when you put the cover closed on the display, you know, just like that, it will put the machine to sleep. It uses the magnets as a sensor, and it will wake up automatically when you open it up, and the Bluetooth will reconnect pretty quickly. For those of you who are interested in the 15.6-inch model, which actually starts at $50 less, that's because it has conventional spinning hard drives. It doesn't have SSD drives, so it's a bit less money there. It has a kind of oddball design. Instead of this kind of normal layout, the trackpad is on the right side. There's nothing here. There's a little divider line where you can actually fold this section right here, fold it up to partially cover the keyboard. I'm not sure what HP was thinking there and what the purpose of that actually is, and I don't know how many people want the trackpad beside the keyboard, especially if you're left-handed like me. This is just totally not the right place for trackpad. But anyway, difference to keep in mind if you're interested in an even bigger version of this. And for size comparisons, this is the Yoga 3 Pro right here, permanently attached keyboard, and this is Surface Pro 3 by Microsoft. Boy, they really do show a lot of common DNA, and you can see the difference in size there. So if you're thinking you just needed more screen real estate, well, there you go. And for our Yoga, of course, it has the Yoga ink design, so you could use it as a tablet, but you get a permanently attached keyboard that is, well, there it is. In terms of typing experience, surprisingly though, the HP is just about as good as this. It's quite easy to type on, and like I said, a lot more rigid than the Surface keyboard is. Yeah. Alright, so here we are in Civ 5, which is fun because it does support touch, and so far the touchscreen has worked well on this compared to some other touchscreen laptops that we've run Civ on. One thing that you'll notice though is that the turns take longer. So we're going to move that unit over there. Then we're going to send them over there. And we have auto turn end, so it's actually still thinking and computing right now. Now this is a real early game, obviously. We don't have much of the map exposed. We haven't met many folks, but it's still a bit slower than normal. And let's send them over here. The sound is really nice though. These front-facing speakers are full and rich, and certainly better than most other Windows tablets on the market. And you can see we've got please wait here. We're waiting for the other virtual players to make their move. And it's thinking. And it's processing turn for player 3, player 4, player 6, the barbarians. So yeah, that's the drawback here. So just like the Yoga 3 Pro, not really a gaming machine. I mean, Ultrabooks and tablets particularly, you know, they're not. The Metro live tile games, yeah, no problem there. And games that are a couple of years old, Sims 3, just fine. But no Battlefield 4 here. And even something like Tomb Raider, you're going to have to put the lowest resolution and lowest quality settings possible. Now, when you switch over to something like web browsing, it's just fine. We've got IE here, which actually handles all the Windows features like pinch zooming and scrolling and font sizing pretty well. So we'll take a look at a video to see how that sounds and plays. Has HDMI out, like I said. You also have Miracast wireless display. That's standard for Windows 8.1. We'll set our quality up to 1080p. And full screen it. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here's one of the ones you've been waiting for. This is the Lenovo Yoga. About 50% volume. The latest evolution. In some ways, it's way ahead of its time. It's incredibly thin. Sounds fine. Looks good. Gets the job done. So, you want to play Netflix, you want to play Amazon Prime Video, you want to play YouTube videos, no problem, you want to browse the web. Multitasking, it's pretty decent now. The 8 gigs of RAM really helps here, though the Y series CPU isn't the brightest. So if you're going to be doing something like Adobe Premiere video editing with full HD video, well, this isn't really the ideal machine for that. But if you're going to be doing that while running Word, while running Chrome, which uses more memory than Internet Explorer with 10 tabs open, you're going to notice a little bulkiness when you switch back and forth. But for the average person who just does more lightweight tasks and not as many tasks at a time, it's fine. It can handle MS Office. You people who like to do software development, keep the projects small. Little apps developing, those are fine. You're not going to be working on the next great web browser for desktops on this, compiling millions of lines of code, unless you have lots and lots of patience. How about battery life? The Y series CPU here, it doesn't use much power, and obviously, we've got room for a decent battery in here, but not a whole lot either. 33 watt-hour battery, 2 cells, so it's not the biggest battery, and it manages about 5.5 hours on a charge at 50% brightness with Wi-Fi on. So, you know, that's not too bad, but it's not stunning here. What manufacturers have done is really gone for using a smaller battery so far with the very few Intel Broadwell machines that we have on the market, rather than increasing battery life by sticking with the same capacity batteries we saw in last generation machines. So all in all, it's very consumer friendly. It's a size a lot of people can relate to who find something like Surface Pro 3 a little bit small. If you want something that is kind of more of a pure tablet design, and the Yoga 3 Pro would be another competitor, obviously that's quite slim, and actually it it weighs less than this with the keyboard cover on, and that kind of hurts, you know. So that's the HP Envy X2 2014 model with Intel Broadwell inside. Two-piece design right here. This is included. Remember, the pen is not. That's $60 extra. And if you like the look of Surface Pro 3, but not so much the size, you want a tablet that's, well, 13.3 inches, something a bit easier to see, the big stereo speakers facing on the front, and you don't want the absolute best performance possible. It's actually not bad. You get a lot of ports here. You get quite a good display. Not too bad. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to hit that like button.